Welcome to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, a podcast for Danville, Kentucky and beyond. Conversations with friends, and you get to listen. Brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. 80% Danville-centric, 20% eccentric.
Good morning, Danville, Kentucky. You are listening to Man About Danville, the most influential, the fastest growing podcast for Danville, Boyle County, the Central Kentucky region, and probably the whole darn Commonwealth. I am Logan H. Gurman, the Man About Danville himself. Wherever you are, at home, at work, on a walk, on your drive to your spring break destination, on your drive home from spring break. By the way, if you're in a long car ride, you've got a whole back catalog of episodes that you haven't listened to yet. So just hit the play button and I will accompany you the whole way home. It'll be like having me right there in the car with you. Maybe you're mowing your yard. It's that time of year. Maybe you're getting ready for Easter or your family has just left. Whatever you're doing, however you're spending your day, I appreciate you spending part of that day with me. I sincerely appreciate it. If you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you do, I wish you would consider giving me a like or a thumbs up or a subscription or a review or a comment wherever you listen, whether it's on iTunes or Google Podcasts or Apple Podcast Player or Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen. I'd appreciate the comments, reviews. That helps me with the search algorithms. If you have been driving around Danville in the past couple of weeks, you may have noticed some construction there on 3rd Street in the Hub building. They were putting windows in the 3rd floor of the old Hub Franco building, and you may not have known what was going on, but they've got a new tenant up there, CentreWorks, and today my guests are Dr. Anthony and his wife, Andrea Margida. They are the directors of CentreWorks, and thank you all for being with me.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Thank you for inviting us.
Generally, the format of this show is I have conversations with my friends, people I know. Anthony, you and I have been in a couple of Zoom meetings, and that's not an exaggeration. Andrea, you and I have never actually met, so you all are new friends, and actually this podcast has become a way for me to meet new friends here in town. You all have recently moved to town to head up CentreWorks. Where were you before, and what were you doing there?
Okay. Well, actually, we still have residents in Alliance, Ohio. We are transitioning now. We're on our way to Danville, and we're excited about moving here, but we're in the process of doing that right now.
So are you living here part of the time? Do you have an apartment or something right here then?
When we are here part of the time, we are guests of Center College. We're staying at the Stone Cottage right now.
Yeah. Everybody knows where that is.
Right. So we've actually done all of this work for over a year now remotely, right? Because the pandemic hit.
It hit right about the time you all were winding up.
Exactly. Well, we were beginning this big immersive project, listening tour to determine how to design what is now called CentreWorks. It was all based on listening to perspectives from individuals throughout Danville and Boyle County and what is now really a 7-county region.
So our first big dive into this was a physical trip here the first week of March of last year. And everybody seems to know the dates when the pandemic hit. I mean, March 12th was when a lot of things started shutting down. That was the end of our first week here when we did the deep dive into the interviews. So when we left to go back to Ohio, little did we know that it would be a full year before we returned physically. But in the meantime, as Andrea is saying, we did this deep dive and the conversations and the active listening with hundreds of people literally throughout Danville and community and the region, and those continue today. But it was those conversations that we had and the understanding, developing the understanding of the needs and the wants and the capabilities of the area that inspired our design of the CentreWorks programs.
So in these Zoom meetings where you and I have both been present, have you been in Ohio?
Yes, that's true.
I had no idea.
That's true. Hey, I know. You don't know if you're right down the street or in the next state.
I think that's a great question because everyone we met, all of those conversations took place when we were in Ohio and with people in Kentucky and with Center College students zooming in from all sorts of places. So that's how we build all these relationships and this connection and this deep understanding. So you asked our background. We're entrepreneurs. Okay, we've started various organizations, businesses, and over 15 years ago, we partnered to start our business as ecosystem architects, if you will, sort of designing customized.
We build environments for innovation. We've done it for corporations, we've done it for communities and colleges and universities.
So physical environments and
primarily the programming.
Okay.
It's at the heart of what innovation is, what creates startup businesses of all types, and community initiatives.
And you all are doing this together. At some point, I don't know if I'm going to do it at the moment, but I'd like to talk to you how it is working with your spouse.
It's awesome. It's one of our goals, really. It was one of our goals, and we found we've always wanted to do that. We met as undergrads in college.
And where was that?
The College of Worcester, another liberal arts institution.
Is that in Indiana?
So it's in Ohio.
Ohio, okay.
Yeah. It's in Northeast Ohio. So we met there. We got married soon after. We raised a family, and Andrea's got an advanced degree in sciences, as I do, and we took different paths on ways in which we expressed what we did and gathered experiences, but we always wanted to get to the point where we could unite and work together. And it finally came together about 15 years ago when we formed our consulting company, TechGrid. So the first half of my career, for example, before TechGrid, was always in part of innovation. I had an opportunity to invent and create some patents, but also had the opportunity to direct the commercialization of those new technologies and form new businesses based upon those inventions. So that breadth of experience in the business fundamentals is what inspired me to go on forward to want to create innovation spaces and programs and enable others to do the same. So while that first half of my career was going on, you can talk about your experiences there.
Sure,
right?
Sure. So again, we're both very entrepreneurial. Starting things has been kind of part of what we do. I had a nutrition consulting business after I, finished my degree. I also started a corporate wellness program back before people knew what those were, and brought a team together, and we got that up and running. Went on to decided we wanted to move to a farm. So we moved to our first farm in Minnesota. Our kids were little, and we wanted them to grow up appreciating the land, understanding how hard people work, knowing where food comes from, how to take care of animals, and respect animals as well. So we started our first farm together.
Was that a dairy operation in Minnesota?
It was not.
Okay.
It was a small farm, and where we literally took the family minivan off to buy 30 chickens, 30 laying hens, stuffed them in the back. Anthony really didn't know about that, but that was my first sort of foray into pulling our children in as well to start something. So we, the kids had a little egg business, delivering local farm fresh eggs.
And so that continued to grow, and we've been in sustainable and regenerative agriculture ever since those early days of our farm experiences.
So we ended up, we love Minnesota, but when you live somewhere that gets that much snow and is cold that long, people don't come visit you so much. we're a little far from family, so we made the move to Ohio to be closer to family and to have a much bigger farm. So we started Morning Mist Farm, a big 80-acre farm, and ran it with as our children were growing up, and became this really this model for regenerative agriculture. Actually started an outreach, global outreach, and have been able to bring people from around the world to the farm for workshops on entrepreneurship, on sustainability. It's really
social
been
enterprises,
incredible.
yeah,
Culminating with a big farm-to-table dinner, putting together what you've grown and what you can source locally.
If you haven't yet, I'm betting you're going to find a whole lot of overlap with those kind of ideas here in this area too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's really, you're absolutely right. I think it's an exciting time in Kentucky because, gosh, agriculture is, things are changing, and the scene in Kentucky, I just went to the Kentucky Food Summit. When we say went, we of course all mean virtually, but I was impressed with what's happening with the outreach, with what growers and producers are doing, with ways they've, especially during the pandemic, managed to shift gears, to grow, to make all these connections and be able to get some of this really wonderful food that's being produced locally to consumers.
So you're right. There is a lot of overlap, and we're finding that a lot of our skills and a lot of our experiences are coming together to meet some of the opportunities that are here already.
These things are in the conversation here, but I still think we're pretty much, we're at the bottom of the learning curve as a state, I would guess. So it seems like you all have an enormous opportunity.
There is a lot of opportunity, but I think what's exciting is that people are ready. They are ready to figure out, okay, what are we going to do next? And in a sense, Kentucky still has a lot of smaller farms. It's hard to bring that back. So they have small farms. There are small farms here. And it's a matter of building on that, helping people be able to really have a business, make that work and connect with their local community. And so I think things are definitely going in the right direction. I think it's a really exciting time.
And that's where CentreWorks comes in to a certain extent, that our mission is to build community and help the community through the programs that are offered there to reach their potential. And we can, and the ways in which we try to do that are, it's funny because we've talked to different people, many people, and a lot of people self-describe Kentucky as well. It's not, we're not innovative here. And they think of innovation in the sense of what's becoming stereotypical for entrepreneurships and big tech and things like that. But the people here do have a great sense of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Nobody's more entrepreneurial than a farmer, actually. Okay.
I 100% agree with
you. It's just that people don't necessarily identify with that, and we think, are you? Come on, there's innovation going on right and left. Encouraging people to see themselves that way, and when you say, well, maybe Kentucky's a bit behind, I don't really see that. I kind of feel like, no, actually, they're ahead of that. They have family farms. A lot of the country doesn't have family farms anymore. So they're really ahead of the curve. There is innovation. There are entrepreneurs, and there are ways to build on that. And that's what these programs that we've put in place and have been really running for months now at CentreWorks are all about. So you may have heard about Liftoff, the starters course. Mm-hmm. So that's for people who, here's where it gets a little tough. We don't want to say it's for entrepreneurs because it's Kentucky. People don't realize, you're an entrepreneur. So we want people to understand this is for someone who, even you just have an idea, you think, I might want to build something, I might want to start something at some point.
Well, let's back up just a second. You all were brought in by Center to build from the ground up CentreWorks. In a couple of sentences, exactly what is CentreWorks?
CentreWorks' mission is to build community, as I mentioned, and a sense of resilience and a culture of innovation. That's really at the top level. We're doing this, the methodology that Andrea and I have written into all the programs is built on two main platforms. One is instill the entrepreneurial mindset and teach innovation through a process of the human-centered approach. So those two things is our messages, and we'll get into the specific programs as we go forward, but the messages that throughout the programs are, one is an entrepreneurial mindset, is that entrepreneurs are not born, they're made. And they're made by understanding the practices that entrepreneurs practice, the things like grit and determination and perseverance in things that are done, empathy, an ability to listen deeply, to understand marketplaces, customers, individuals, to embrace ambiguity. That's to have a vision and not know how you're going to get there at all, but be comfortable with that, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And also seeing that with failure is a mode of learning, and that the failures, getting comfortable with that and learning from that, that's part of the entrepreneurial mindset. And by those practices, to make those habits, you have that entrepreneurial mindset, that mindset for growth. So that's more or less the attitude part of it. The other part of it is, well, how do you innovate? Well, the mistake or the issue that a lot of people heading into businesses or approaching any problem is that they start with a solution. They think, I got an idea that's going to do whatever. And it's based upon their perception of the world. And how they got that perception varies greatly. But the human-centered approach is about backing up and involving the human perspective in all aspects of problem solving to gather insights from individuals, a number of individuals, to not only shape the problem that you're going to solve, but also involve that human perspective in developing the solution that's going to be the basis for your business or whatever community challenge that you're taking on.
Is CentreWorks for center students, center graduates, or are you serving a larger population than that?
So CentreWorks is a great question because CentreWorks is for the community. And when we say community, we mean Danville, Boyle County, these 6 surrounding counties, Center College, right? This is the community. So we're not separating it out any longer. So yes, Center College students will be part of it in some capacity, faculty, staff. People are welcome to come and be involved. They're welcome to go through these programs. Students will have different roles that, are available to them. We have students participating, for example, in Liftoff, that starters course, but they're alongside to see how local entrepreneurs go through this human-centered approach, how they go through that process. They're there to build connections and build relationships. So for the students, this is what they're most excited about, is the opportunity to connect with people in Danville, people that they don't normally get to meet even, and to really form these relationships and to listen and learn from people.
So center students are going to be participating, but it's open to anybody that's got a good idea for a business or has a business that they want to expand or flesh out.
We ask that those who enroll in the program to come with an idea of those they want to serve in Liftoff, an idea for the people they want to serve, not necessarily their business idea, and sometimes it's better that they don't. But through this human-centered approach, they develop the basis for their value proposition, which is the platform for all successful businesses. And what the students' role in that is they work alongside those prospective entrepreneurs. And as Andrea was describing, they observe, they assist, and they just grow from the experiences that the entrepreneurs are going through to put their their business idea together. So it's experiential learning that they can see firsthand.
It's a chance to see what really goes into it. People don't realize what it takes to start a business. And as we said, it is this approach where you begin by figuring out, what do people want? Where is there a need or a want? And how can I fit that instead of, I have a great idea. Of course everybody wants it. I've made this product, everyone will want it. So instead you back up, you do all these listening conversations, right? That's what empathy is, these deep listening. And then you start to figure out what it is actually that you will be able to, what needs you're going to fill or want. And the students see that firsthand. They see what it takes to get to that stage even, right? To back up and get to that stage. The importance of listening. I mean, that's not something we're all necessarily taught, and step back and listen.
And we're teaching that in Liftoff, that listening, that empathy is a skill in and of itself. It's not just being patient and opening your ears, but it's digging into conversations, getting behind what people say and what they do, and understanding why they do it and what motivates them and what turns them on. These are the things that are at the heart of understanding and finding opportunity. By doing this, you see needs, you see wants, and then an entrepreneur can identify with their own skills, their own capabilities, their own interests, and find ultimately that match, that product market fit, if you will, that becomes the platform for their value proposition.
You guys are physically located on the third floor of the Hub building, where the Hub coffee shop is.
Correct.
Yes.
Are you all in that space yet?
We are not. The space is being remodeled.
You all got some new windows the other day. You may have, if you were driving through Danville, you may have noticed that 3rd Street had a little unusual traffic as you all were getting new, historically appropriate
windows. Restored the windows. So beautiful windows. It's a fabulous space, very open, so that there's room for people to come together and collaborate, find those synergies and collaborate. We have a local entrepreneur who has worked very closely with us, Jen Onquist, to design that space so that it is built so that people realize this is for the community. Okay, this is for the community, designed this way, designs for lots of flexibility. I think every piece in that space has many uses and can be reconfigured for all sorts of activities. We're really excited. We'll have quite a few repurposed items in there. So I don't want to give too much away, but I think that people are going to walk in and already feel a connection.
Right. We'll say it this way, is that the intent in the design was to give the space the personality and the character of Danville and Boyle County community.
Well, it's an interesting reuse of that space in that the Hub was at the center of town. It was a 3-story department store. Every pair of shoes I owned before I went to college came from the men's shoe department on the first floor. So I think it's, and of course the Frankel family some of them still live here in town, and it's a Mr. Frankel, who was my grandparents' age, was a entrepreneur and he was a wonderful businessman here in town. So it's neat that you all are kind of continuing that tradition in that space. And
well, you're right, though. How about that location? Right in the heart of town, right in the center of town.
Danville functions as a hub for the 6 counties around us and has for a couple of 100 years.
Exactly. So you're right. It's going to be this, it will be this physical gathering place again. But, the pandemic hit, so we couldn't wait for the space. And it's become a gathering place. Really, CentreWorks has it's just been virtual. So Liftoff is just one program. Well,
that was another question. You've mentioned the Liftoff program. What are some other programs that you're going to be doing, and what are the goal of these different programs?
Right. So again, at the core, it is all about building community, pulling the region together as a community,
and working alongside of one another.
Right. Collaborating. So, for example, we have a program called Pursuit. It's about engagement, lifelong learning. Tonight's pursuit, we have
a program tonight at 7:00.
It's called The Hill Comes to Danville, and we're going to learn about legislation that's taking place on a national level that has to do with food systems. How can we incentivize farmers to help mitigate climate change? What's going on nationally, and how does it impact us locally? And what can people do to be part of that? And this particular pursuit event came to be because of Fusion, which is another program, right? Fusion is built to be community collaboration groups. The very first one is access to fresh food. That's the theme for this.
So our plan is to have several Fusion groups, many Fusion groups, and they're going to be all community collaboration groups and focused on a particular area of interest.
Did you do one on downtown?
That was Pursuit. Yes,
yeah.
You're right. We did have Pursuit with Heart of Danville. So we gave Heart of Danville this platform then to pull people together. With Fusion, with the access, as Anthony said, there will be many fusions. This is the community coming to us, right? So the access to fresh food was brought forward by what we call a community champion. And that community champion was Jeff Jewell, who came to us in the summer.
In our resilience program, which was a boot camp for incoming students. Okay, so we'll try to keep all this straight. So
there are lots of programs. Can you tell we've been busy at CentreWorks, right?
Exactly.
Well, let me go back to the beginning with the resilience boot camp. It was our first program at CentreWorks. We kicked it off last summer, and the intention was to bring incoming students together to meet their new community and to work alongside them. And the platform by which we did this was we searched, interviewed, and found community champions who wanted to take on a particular community challenge. And we found 3 of them. One of them happened to be Jeff Jewell for food deserts. And with each of these 3 community champions, we put teams together of incoming students who worked with the community champion to develop that understanding, start with empathy, talk to other community members, individuals, organizations, to get an understanding of a particular community challenge that the champion brought forward, and work together with them. They were big challenges. They started with the human-centered approach. Challenges were big enough that they didn't get to real solutions, but enough to make suggestions for how do you continue to move forward. Great experience for the students by the feedback that we've got, because they not only got to meet people of their new community, which amazingly a lot of it was done virtually, but they got to work alongside of them. And when you work alongside of someone, you build a quality relationship.
So we, before school even started for these incoming students who were, this was meant to be, Resilience was meant to be a boot camp where we all gathered and we walked through Danville and we got to shake hands, right? But of course, none of that could happen. So again, all virtual, Zooming in from all sorts of places. But these students developed this connection to Danville. Like they started to really like Danville, this town some had only maybe driven through when they did their college tour. And that kept building. And so from the boot camp, it led to, we want to continue with this. We want to continue with these people. Like we've met people, we've talked with people. We can't let go of this, what we're working on. And so that led to the first Fusion community collaboration group being built around access to fresh food, making it even broader, inviting anyone in the community in to lend their perspective. Tell us what this means to you. And the students have worked on that they've had this community meeting and individual conversations. They've reached out to more people. They established a hotline in both English and Spanish so people could call in and share their perspective, right? Tell us. Are there barriers? I mean, tell us what it means. What does fresh food even mean to you? Is it important? So having those conversations, and this is moving along, and now will culminate in another big gathering where anyone from the community is invited to come together and hear what the students have heard from all these different people. And when you listen to all these people, you start seeing some common themes you're hearing, and they put together a problem statement.
So they're going through this human-centered approach process, and the most time-intensive component of that is making sure that you understand the human perspective. Right. And that's what the hotline was all about. That's what the conversations were all about. That was what the first seminar in October was all about, was to gather these voices. They've gotten to the point where they've collected these, categorized them, put them in themes, and are ready to go back to the community. That's going to happen April 13th with our Fusion Convocation. The entire community is welcome to join us, and we want them to.
So this is timely that you're talking about this on the 13th.
Right.
If I wanted to participate in that conversation on the 13th, where do I find it? Where do I go?
Great question. If you go to CentreWorks.org.
Okay.
CentreWorks.org. And we'd love for people to follow us on social media because there's information all the time about the events, and it moves quickly, as you see. So it's April 13th, anybody can register. So we ask people to register for all our events, and then we send them a link. So this will be student-led. That's the other thing that's pretty exciting. So you've got this team of students that, again, haven't had the chance to meet in person. They've done all this work. So they'll lead this 1 hour session, kind of fill people in on how did we get to the problem statement.
And
right?
Yes, they'll lead the convocation. But what they're going to be doing is reporting on that human perspective, the community voice. Right. And they've taken it to the point where we have summed it up to put before the community, this is the problem statement. These are the things we need to address in order to take on the Access to Fresh Foods Challenge. The convocation is going to be kind of fun. I don't know, this might be a little spoiler, but we're going to ask all community members, give them an opportunity to use our jam boards that night to weigh in on solutions, to weigh in on ideas, give their ideas, share their thoughts on how certain things can be addressed.
So I can see somebody being if someone were in particular interested in delivery of fresh food here in the community, they'd be interested. But also for someone that wants to understand what you all do and the process you go through to tackle any kind of problem, this would be a great intro.
Exactly. And the reality is everybody eats food. So quite honestly, this pertains to everybody, okay? We're all kind of experts in that area, aren't we? Like, we know what we want to eat, and we know what obstacles we face in trying to get certain foods. So everyone, I think that this really is for everyone. And it is going to be fun to get to, for people we'll have this we'll go into breakout rooms, but really have some fun brainstorming where it's all anonymous too. You get to throw up your what you think is your great idea, and we're hoping for just, oh my goodness, hundreds of these ideas, and then we get to step back again and look at all of those.
And even people that don't currently live here, because it's all virtual, you don't even have to live in. If you were used to live here, want to live here, just interested in Danville, you can participate from far too.
Absolutely.
With all of our events, you're right.
I'm a big liberal arts guy. I didn't go to Center, but I went to a liberal arts school, and the big knock is you don't get any practical experience. I could write you a sonnet about changing a tire. I could tell you the theological history of changing a tire, but do I know how to change a tire? So this, I think, is a wonderful opportunity for Center students to really get their hands dirty and involved with a project, no matter whether it turns out great or whether it needs a reboot 2 years later. It's a wonderful practical opportunity for them, like you said, to get out into the community.
Exactly.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, right? So they're getting this experience in real time, right? They're learning how to build these relationships, get conversations going.
And and all our programs were designed to do just that. And guess how we decided to go forward that way? The students told us that that's what they wanted. That's what was
exactly what you said.
A great enhancement to the education, the experience they're already getting here.
All right, so we've talked about liftoff, we've talked about pursuit, we've talked about fusion groups, and we've talked some about resilience. Are there any other programs that are going to be implementing soon, or any other events we want to talk about?
Of course there are other programs.
That's a loaded question.
Well, the thing we wanted to say that goes along with all of those programs is that Andrea and I, as you can tell, don't do this all ourselves. It's together with the community, and we would invite any individual or organization to come forward to approach CentreWorks if they have a particular cause or initiative they want to champion, because we're here to assist in giving a platform, to facilitate, to promote, to build backing.
And not just not-for-profit or social causes, but you all are looking for-profit entrepreneurs too. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, well, for example, we're in our second liftoff community, right? We call them a community because it really is about building community that just grows and grows. So in the first liftoff community, I mean, we can say, right, our graduates from that they're in business. So there's a new, I think it's all over social media now, there's a new children's bookstore coming to town. So Kate did a fabulous job, Kate Snyder, going through liftoff and really practicing that deep listening to determine what the community wanted. Kate didn't come in, well, she kind of did come in and said, like we all do with, I got a great idea. But she shifted when she listened to what the community said, this is what we want. She had loads of conversations, and now she's at the point where how exciting for her. She's opening her bookstore. I mean, this is really going to happen. This dream of having this business, it's happening. So yes, it is for.
It's exciting for us too.
Yeah. It's so exciting.
Right. So and similarly, of the 14 people who were part of that first community, they're each doing their own thing. Maybe not to the extent that Kate is so far, but there's been a nonprofit that serves handicapped families and the challenges they face. We had a few artists who come through who are positioning how they can advance a business interest that parallels their love for their art. And there are other examples as well. But one thing that comes out of this, Logan, that no matter if a business is started or not, is the graduates of Liftoff come out with this new skill set. And that skill set that includes the human-centered approach for innovation is one in which they can create the business they're thinking of now, or a successive business, or use it in taking on a community challenge or some form of personal growth.
Being an entrepreneur isn't everybody's cup of tea, but entrepreneurial thinking in any business is an asset, and especially if an employer has an employee who thinks like an owner, that makes everybody happy. So I can see how these skills would have enormous application all over.
Right.
Okay. You can be a spokesperson for CentreWorks, because that was very well said. Yes.
The other thing is, so someone who goes through it, perhaps they're not at a place where they want to start something. You're right. Not everybody does. But maybe they met someone they want to team up with now, and they want to fill a different role. We're actually seeing that synergy with a community, Liftoff Community Number 1 grad and a current Liftoff Community Number 2 participant. And I just think, that is really what that's all about. So this, there you go, broadening and building community and collaborations.
It's about enhancing a culture and building a culture of innovation. Mm-hmm. And to that extent, Andrea and I believe everyone in the community should experience Liftoff for that purpose. Not necessarily because they want to start a business, but they can begin thinking like that.
Let's say I wanted to participate in Liftoff. When is my next opportunity to do that?
Our next planned Liftoff will be in the fall.
Okay.
We're in the midst of our second community now, which began earlier this month. but we will begin again in the fall.
Generally do two sessions a year.
We do for now, but again, remember, we're on this grand listening tour, as we like to call it. So if the community, if there's a need for more, it'll be offered more often. If we find out, no, there's actually a need for something else, then, I mean, we're listening. So we're basing things on that.
Right. Our belief that as the communication about liftoff continues, people understand it, and seeing the results, there'll be more, the demand will grow. So we're prepared to move to a third class, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, an eighth, a 10th to handle whatever that demand may be.
All right. And as word spreads outside of Danville and Boyle County to the surrounding counties too.
We've actually had
the
very first liftoff, I think we had 5 different counties represented. So you're right, though, as it grows and as people understand, this is the region we're covering. It's broad. And, Zoom makes that more accessible. You don't have to try to drive into town for this meeting in the evening once a week.
But these skills would apply no matter where you are physically, whether you're a center student who's from Louisville or from Tacoma, Washington, or wherever.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely, you're right.
Or a farmer or health professional or teacher in one of the surrounding counties.
Yep.
It's anyone can benefit from it.
Do you all like the term business incubator?
Well, we think we've run business incubators. We think that the term, we don't like its use for CentreWorks, if that's the question, because it's too limiting in terms of a descriptor for what our mission is at CentreWorks.
When will you all be in the third floor of the hub, and when will you be available? I just want to come see what you've done.
We can't wait to show you. Quite honestly, we can't wait. So, we're optimistically, Anthony's saying June, I'm saying August. And I think we're both being a little optimistic there.
For those of you who are, builders out there, the drywall's up and the painting's starting to begin. So we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, but it's been tough, right, during the pandemic to move things along, and that's why we remind people that CentreWorks is happening. CentreWorks is happening. Don't worry, we've been happening.
State of the physical.
Exactly, and really, we've seen, we've had a chance to really see accelerators, incubators, ecosystems all across the country. People get pretty excited about the space, and that's nice. But boy, what goes on in there is really what really matters. Got to have the right programming. And if it's customized, which is exactly what we do and believe firmly in, then that's built to last. And the icing on the cake is we are going to have this fabulous space as well that really reflects the community. So we cannot wait to welcome everybody in there.
There are some things that you can do in an innovation space that you can't do virtually. And here's one of them is, as Andrea is saying, it's all about the quality of the programming. But if there's a diversity of programs, you attract a diversity of people. And when you get the diversity of people who are coming there, not necessarily coming to CentreWorks on that third floor, not necessarily for the same reason or for the same reason, but with different initiatives, then there's cross-pollination, there's overlap, there's spontaneous kind of collaboration, and that's really where the magic can begin to happen, and you have this multiplier effect.
That's going to be great to see and be part of.
All right, this conversation could go on for the rest of the afternoon
and
probably into the evening. This is just absolutely fascinating. Are there any parting words you want to share, or anything on the near horizon that you want to tell us about?
It is hard to explain, honestly. I do think that it's hard to convey, and to convey it so that it's respectful. Like, what I really want to say, we've seen, and we've been part of, but we've seen so many organizations that are where people think it's for millennials, it's for guys, it's for tech, it's for this, and this is not limiting. Everybody should feel comfortable coming on in there and let's build something.
Part of the magic. You get some millennials, and you get some boomers, and you get some Gen Z, and you get some farmers, and some doctors, and some.
That's what we want to see.
And we have it in Liftoff right now. We have it in liftoff. It's the coolest thing to see. It is the coolest thing to see, and we can't even have it in person yet. And to watch, these students and watch, the artist and then the farmer who's, his baby's crying, so he's got to go get his baby, and he's been working all day, and he's got to go water his cattle, and we can relate. We've got this deep experience in agriculture. I just think when we all get to be there physically, we're not going to have to explain what it is. And we get that. We get that it's hard to figure out what it is. I mean, we're like, just wait.
No, I think you stepped through it really nicely just now, I think. And but the good news is we're doing a lot of things. We're doing a lot of different things, and that's also the bad news in terms of trying to communicate it all, because there really is a fit for almost anyone. Whether you're a community champion, you want to come forward and take charge of something, or if you're a student or a senior and you have a curiosity about entrepreneurship, you want to learn a little bit more about what it's all about, there's an entry point for you as well.
I'll give you an example, actually, that sort of demonstrates what can happen. So we developed something called Launchtown Experience, 15 years ago. It was for Northeast Ohio for graduate students.
Started with graduate students.
With an undergrad team, okay? It was a competition of sorts, right? And it focused a bit on technology, but the reality is we all use technology now. So everything does have technology dialed into it. And it wasn't Shark Tank, it wasn't a pitch competition, it was an experience. So we would coach these teams, and then we'd get our finalists, and we'd coach them even more, and then they'd get this chance to be up in front of their big audience. In our first, I think, 5 years of that, was it 3 or 4 of the participants?
I think we had 3.
At least 3 made Forbes 30 under 30, and they didn't even win the competition, okay? Because the way we designed this thing.
I can see how somebody that doesn't win the competition is better positioned to succeed.
Yeah. And then, so this evolved, right? And so 2 years ago, I said, let's have this somewhere else. Let's not have this, or maybe it was 3 years ago, I guess. Let's not have this on a university campus where everybody expects all this innovation. And so we had it in a very poor section of a gritty city in Northeast Ohio in order to bring, for lots of reasons, right? Like we brought all these investors and researchers, et cetera, into this part of a city where there was this urban revitalization kind of thing going on. Had our event in this big old church that was becoming this community center. And we dialed food into that because there were people around there who we wanted to give them an opportunity to be entrepreneurs. So here you have this high-tech stuff. I mean, way high-tech, some of it. And now...
Yeah, I think a robotics team won the event that year.
Really impressive. And now we dialed in this, who wants to make it in the food area. Ended up bringing in someone from that neighborhood, mentoring this young man whose dream was to be a chef. The prize he won, and the prize was you catered the event. So you had to cater an event for 150 people, like a fancy event.
And get paid for it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, no, he did get the money. But he had to learn how to budget that so that he made money.
Yeah.
He'd never done anything like this. I was, I've got all this experience with food. Like I was...
His food was great, but he hadn't run a business before.
Oh, man, he'd never, It looked fabulous. The food was amazing. This guy now gets flown out to, and I'm not exaggerating, the Hamptons and L.A. to cater events. And I'm just like, you go, Dion. It is
like
so
private
cool.
parties and things like that.
Yes. Yeah. This is what happens when people are open to things. Mm-hmm. What I want to say is that CentreWorks really is for everyone. It truly is. We don't want people to think it's just for entrepreneurs. It isn't. I mean, it's about building community. It's about pulling this community together to address things. And so everyone's voice is important. So CentreWorks is a place where everyone is welcome, but as Anthony always says, it's really where where we want everyone to know they belong. And there's a difference there. Yes, you belong here. Don't be intimidated by that word entrepreneur or turned off by that. We want to hear what people have to say. We have just been delighted, actually, by what we have heard and learned from the people we've had the opportunity to talk with.
It's a place for beginnings. It's a place for starts. Come with an interest is what I would tell people. Come with an interest and see where it takes you from there.
Well, personally, I think you'll have landed in a pretty good spot. I think Danville has always had a history of innovation from the pioneers that came over the mountains, the Ephraim McDowell, the college. I think Danville has a long and storied history of welcoming new, smart people to town and being open-minded and thinking toward the future. So I think this is a great synergy for the operation you all are going to be running and for the town and for the college too. So I've got more questions, but we'll save those for part two. Anthony, Andrea, thank you all for being with me today. I look forward to seeing your new space. Look forward to seeing you in your new space. And in the meantime, people can find you at CentreWorks.org, CENTRE works, WRKS.org. Is that right?
That's correct.
Awesome.
Thank you, Logan. Thanks so much.
Logan, this has been fun. Thanks so much for inviting us.
Thank you.
But wait, there's more. You know what it's time for. What's up, Danville? What's up, Danville is the news you can use here in our fair city. First up, it's spring break next week. Starts this Friday afternoon, runs all next week. So if you're on the road, be careful. Be careful driving there. Be careful driving back, and watch out for all those other folks that are going to be on the road, on the interstates. It's spring. It's April. That means Keeneland will be firing up this month. I think you have to get your tickets online, and we're about a month away from the Kentucky Derby. Congratulations to the Boyle County boys basketball team. They made it to the Sweet 16 at the time of recording. Their game hasn't been played, so I don't know the results, but good luck to them. It's a fine bunch of young men, and I wish them all the best at Rupp Arena. Jeff Jewell, who was mentioned earlier in this episode, is the director of the Chamber of Commerce, and he wants you to know that the farmers market will resume in Constitution Square a month from now, the first weekend in May, which is coincidentally Derby Day. So go support a local farmer, get some fresh produce and other good stuff before you head to Churchill Downs to check out the Derby. Also, if you want to support some young up-and-coming farmers, you can check out the Boyle County High School FFA greenhouse. You can buy your own tomatoes, flowers, other vegetables. They have lots of plants started in their greenhouse that you can take home and then put in your garden or around the house. That will be open to the public on April 26th. It's springtime, so you probably are thinking about playing a little golf. You can join the Ephraim McDowell Health Foundation Annual Golf Classic. That event is going to be held May the 3rd at beautiful Danville Country Club right here in town. Not only will you have a great time, but you will help fund life-changing projects throughout the Ephraim McDowell Health System. For more information, check out www.emhealth.org. That's the letter E, the letter M, health.org. Or call my friend Jessica Johnson, 859-239-2362. That's Jessica Johnson, 859-239-2362 for the Ephraim McDowell Golf Classic. I believe there's a registration deadline coming up like April 19th. So don't miss that deadline. Do you have an item that you'd like for me to mention here on What's Up Danville? Send me an email, manaboutdanville@gmail.com. By the way, I'm still looking for an unlisted house in Green Acres. I still have office space available in the Man About Danville downtown office tower. You could be my office neighbor. I'd like to thank my guests, Anthony and Andrea Margida, for joining me today to talk about CentreWorks. I'll try to get links up to everything that we've discussed in the show notes. Do you want to get in touch with me to either talk about the show or real estate? Do you have an item for What's Up Danville? My audience is interested in what's going on in the arts, what's going on in sports, and if you have a not-for-profit fundraiser or event coming up, let me know about it. ManAboutDanville@gmail.com. You can also find me on my website, ManAboutDanville.com. You can follow me on Instagram at ManAboutDanville. The Twitter handle is ManDanville. Facebook page, ManAboutDanville. Of course, you can find me on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, just about wherever else you listen. You can even listen on your Amazon Echo device, and I've got a YouTube channel, of course. If you have a moment, hit subscribe, like, give me a review if you've got time. I appreciate it. Wow, that was a fun show. A lot of information packed into that one. I want to thank the guys in my production booth. I want to thank the sales and marketing team. I want to thank my business manager and agent. And also want to thank the 2 new spring interns, the interns we have in here for the spring semester. They've been a great help. I hope they're getting something out of this process too. Until next time, shop local, eat local, be well, have a good weekend, and thanks for listening.
That's it. We're out. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to Man About Danville wherever you access your favorite podcasts, and be sure to tell your friends about us. You've been listening to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. Know someone who would be a good guest? Want to be a guest yourself? Have an idea for the show? Get in touch with us. Find all our contact information on the web at ManAboutDanville.com. Thanks for joining us.